pups! RP here, and welcome back to my channel! Today is another top 10 list, and this top 10 is a top 10 favorite Halloween specials. Keep in mind that these are my personal favorites, and are mostly cartoon related, because that's my specialty. Also, a spoiler warning is now in effect, and be sure to comment your favorite Halloween special below, and let's get started! For the number 10 spot, we have Scaredy Godparents. Timmy Turner wants to be a Jack-o'-bot on Halloween. Unfortunately, the rich popular kids from his school won a contest and gained the prize being the Jack-o'-bot costumes. Tired of this unfair All Hallows Eve treatment, he wishes for everything on Halloween to be real and scary. But as always, this comes with a consequence. With the rich kids being real and scary Jack-o'-bots, about to destroy Dimmsdale and the world, Timmy combines a bunch of leftover costume pieces until Wanda finds items to turn her back into a fairy, and eventually grants the reverse wish for Timmy for everything to be fake and safe, as Halloween should be. And of course, there's a bit with Mark from Yugopotamia and the Yugotopians end up setting a piñata bomb on Dimmsdale with a candy explosion, because Yugopotamians are weird. Yeah, that's how it ends. Up next for number 9, we have It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, a pure Halloween classic of the Peanuts franchise. The story tells of Lucy's brother Linus believing in something known as the Great Pumpkin, a similar figure to that of Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny, and every year he misses out on trick-or-treating and a party to see the Great Pumpkin. And little love-struck Sally, sister of Charlie, joins Linus while her brother and their friends go trick-or-treating and enjoy a Halloween party. Of course, Linus sees what he thinks is a Great Pumpkin, but it turns out to be Snoopy, and Sally instantly regrets everything. While not as well known as A Charlie Brown Christmas, it's still one of the classic Peanuts specials, watched every year by anyone and everyone, young and old. For the number 8 spot, we have SpongeBob Scaredy Pants. Classic SpongeBob. This episode follows SpongeBob every year on Halloween. He's made fun of and picked on for being easy to spook. Tired of this, he and Patrick team up to make SpongeBob scary, but due to him being square, Patrick has to shave him down, make him round. Later, they test it out at the Krusty Krab's Halloween party, only for it to fail and the real Flying Dutchman appears, to eventually reveal a shaved SpongeBob with his brain exposed. And it actually works by scaring everyone away. It's one of the funniest and cutest Halloween specials from classic SpongeBob, and it's something I often watch every year too. Up next for lucky number 7 is Mickey's House of Villains. Growing up, I and the rest of my family were Disney fanatics, and I had always dreamt of going to Disneyland or Disney World as a kid, but the chance never came. It will someday, I'm sure of it! And Halloween is a staple holiday to me, and my family too. With all the Disney Halloween specials, for the Playhouse Disney shows, to some of our all-time favorite Disney Channel shows, along with the movies, theatrical or TV made, or even straight to video and DVD, I went with Mickey's House of Villains, because I remember watching this show growing up as a kid. I could have gone with a Bear in the Big Blue House Halloween special, or one of the Halloween Town movies, but this one sticks out to me. The villains plan to take over the house on All Hallows Eve at midnight, while Mickey and the rest of the gang hang out and showcase a bunch of classic, new, and spooky cartoons. When midnight comes around, it's the song by the villains that gets me, and Mickey has to fight off Jafar to get the house back via Mickey magic and Aladdin's genie lamp to seal them in and get their house back. The concept is rather simple, but at the same time, I love it. I may not watch it every year on Halloween, but it's a good special nonetheless. Up next for number 6 is Nightmare in Retroville. Jimmy Neutron was one of my favorite Nicktoons growing up, so this one was interesting for a lot of reasons. Jimmy just invented the new neutronic monster machine that turns anyone and everyone into the monster of their choice. Carl and Sheen volunteer for 25% of their candy as payment, which Sheen foolishly offers half of his for the choice of costumes, with Carl being a vampire and Sheen being a werewolf. And of course, things turn south when Carl has a taste for blood and starts acting and shapeshifting into a bat, just like Dracula. Sheen's affected by the full moon, making him full werewolf, and Hugh, Jimmy's dad, unknowingly entered the machine, thinking it was a game, and turned him into the Frankenstein monster. And later Carl turns Cindy into a vampire, and Sheen turns Libby into a werewolf. It's up to Jimmy to stop them, and turn them back to normal, and hopefully stop all of Retroville from turning into a monster mob like in the classic monster movies. He turns to a monster loved by Hugh, known as Octopus Man, bringing them all back to the machine and turning them back to normal. Honestly, being a monster does sound fun, but Jimmy Neutron shows the effects of messing around with science. Look what happened with Carl and Sheen! Don't forget about those side effects. Well, I guess me being zombie werewolf hybrid is just gonna have to be a weird fantasy dream of mine. The halfway point for number 5 is Edins Boohahaa. You can't have a Halloween special list without talking about this Ed and Eddie Halloween special. This special revolves around the Eds looking for a place called Spookyville on Halloween while trick-or-treating. And Ed, after watching a ton of horror movies, combined with his overactive imagination, gets a little too into the Halloween spirit. Seeing things like vampires, witches, ghosts, aliens, and so many monsters that just freak him out and scare him to death. He pretty much gets into the role of a Halloween hero, and his imagination is actually pretty accurate to classic horror films shown on Halloween, with a film gradient effect and the background changes. Near the end, he hides Eddie and Double D and himself into a hole after not finding Spookyville, tricked by Eddie's brother, Tear. But the angry beat-up kids of the cul-de-sac enter the hole, and Eddie and Double D get beaten up, with Ed seeing a happier ending after his hard work and efforts of saving them from the Hallows Eve monsters. Halloween in classic Ed and Eddie fashion, man. Classic Ed and Eddie. For number 4, we have Billy and Mandy's Jacked Up Halloween. The show was banned in my household for a time because of how cynical and mean Mandy's character was, and how gross Billy's character was. And that was her character on the show, Mom! It didn't influence me, for God's sake. Ugh. Soccer moms, am I right? Ugh. Stupid soccer moms. Anyway, it's Halloween, and Billy, Mandy, and Grim go trick-or-treating, and after pulling a trick on a greedy old lady, Grim explains it was mostly his fault because of the pranks a guy named Jack played on the village of Endsville at the time. The people actually framed Jack via pranking the Queen, and, well, you get the picture. Since it was Jack's time, he winds up making a deal with Grim, via cutting his head off for immortality, and Jack now has to wear a pumpkin for a head. Later, Billy loses Grim's scythe, and Jack uses it to summon the undead and take over Endsville, and cut Grim's head off as revenge. But with the help of Billy distracting Jack and his minions, Mandy and Arwen manage to defeat Jack and his minions via laughing themselves to death, and Grim banishes Jack to the underworld, where he gets beaten up by demons for pranking them. The show itself was super spooky, and this is the perfect Halloween special for it. The bronze medal for number 3 goes to Blue's Big Costume Party. While the other specials on here are all about the spooks, this one is probably about costume parties and cuteness. This Blue's Clues episode allows us to help Magenta figure out a good costume for her while attending the big costume party, with games of figuring out our friends' costumes, playing Monster Toss, and figuring out which cauldron has more count bags, and skidooing into Boo's mansion and finding their friend, Oogla Boogla. And later figure out a good costume for Magenta, which is a cute little mouse, and playing one of Mailbox's favorite games, Monster Limbo. Granted, this is for a preschool audience, but it was too cute and memorable not to add on the list. The silver medal for second place goes to Curse of the Werewolf. While Candy Bar Creepshow is a Rugrats classic, this one is one of my all-time favorite Halloween specials from the series. The show starts with the parents discussing Halloween plans and ideas for the babies' costumes, with Chucky being a werewolf. He later ends up having a nightmare where he actually is a werewolf, and a mob of villagers chase him and capture him. He later wakes up to find it was just a dream. Later, the babies are dressed as monsters, and thanks to Angelica, they believe they actually are monsters, and in exchange for them to turn themselves back to normal, they have to give her all their candy, because it's Angelica. We should know this by now. They then go to a Halloween-themed park and go trick-or-treating and give Angelica their candy, and as it turns out, she made up the whole story all along, and Chucky even shows a bit of courage when facing off against the park's animatronic zombies. Again, one of my favorite specials from this show. Candy Bar Creepshow is a classic, but I like this one better. Before we get to number 1, I want to give up some honorable mentions to a few of my other favorites that didn't quite make it on this list, but deserve a spot as honorable mentions regardless. Halloween Bear. As said before, it was one of the shows I grew up with on Disney, along with many others. Halloween Bear is one where we learn about Halloween, and everything involving the holiday, with Tutter carving a pumpkin, Bear helping Trilo when he gets scared of Ojo's bat costume, and the gang helping Bear pick out a costume with a big old costume box, and later go trick-or-treating. I don't really remember this one. I did come across it while on a nostalgia craze a short while back, and this episode was super cute, especially for the target demographic. Arnold's Halloween. While Hey Arnold wasn't my favorite Nicktoon, I did watch the special on the Nicktoons Halloween DVD. The story goes of Arnold and Gerald pulling a prank gone wrong when they prank the whole town into thinking they're being invaded by aliens on Halloween. It only gets worse when the kids from their class end up unknowingly part of the prank. Thankfully, things work out for the better after it's revealed that it was just a prank made by Arnold and Gerald. I Scream on Halloween. The iCarly gang decided to host a live webcast at a haunted apartment, as told by their doorman, Lubert. During this webcast, however, Carly, Sam, and Freddy all experience things a haunting goes by. The lights turning off all of a sudden, random touches of supposed spirits, disembodied voices, a clown head of all things, mystery blood randomly appearing, the classic things of a haunting. As it turns out, it was all a prank made by Lubert, and there's only an elderly woman, Mrs. Halberstadt, and her middle-aged son living in the apartment, with everything in their heads. With everything being in their heads. The clown head was a phone, the blow was really red hair dye, and the leg scratching and glass knocking over was the kitten, Abigail. And the light was just a short circuit one. Again, one of the most memorable, a good special for iCarly regardless. And finally, the gold medal for number 1 goes to the Scary Godmother specials. While there's only 2 of them, the Scary Godmother specials airing on Cartoon Network in the early 2000s, and from time to time in the early 2010s, was always a Halloween treat for me as a kid. The first movie was an introduction to Scary Godmother, and a story about a girl named Hannah meeting her new monster friends after her older cousin Jimmy and his friends locked her in the local spook house. Hannah does get over her fear of monsters after meeting and getting to know some of them, one of them being Bugaboo, who scares kids as a job. The second one, Jimmy's Revenge, is about Jimmy's friends befriending Hannah, and about a Halloween party on the Fright side, with Jimmy trying to get Halloween cancelled by any means possible. He later regains his Halloween spirit after scaring Bugaboo near the end. I actually like the sequel more than the first one, with better animation quality and the older kids being nicer and friendlier to Hannah. And of course, Jimmy's change of heart. The first one's a classic, but the sequel will always be my ultimate favorite. Alright, that's another list done. Comment your favorite Halloween special in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one, pups. Cue the outro, RP is out, sweet dreams.